Because exploiting past oppression for present gain is equally despicable. Hello my friends of the Psychedelic Renaissance, it's Tom Hatsis, your psychedelic historian, and this is psychedelic gay conversion therapy. Believe it or not, during the 1950s and 1960s, psychedelic gay conversion therapy was a thing. This area of psychedelic history hasn't received much press except for my own book, LSD the Wonder Child, and from our good friends at Chacruna Institute, who do both a service and a disservice to this topic. It's this weird balancing act that they do over at Chacruna Institute where they both nobly bring these forgotten issues to the fore, but also misrepresent them so much due to very obvious biases. This seems quite evident in Section 4 of Chacruna Institute's anthology, Psychedelic Justice, which deals with queer issues. Therein, the topic of psychedelic gay conversion therapy does come up, and just to reiterate, they are 100% correct that in the past, people did seek out gay conversion therapy using things like LSD and peyote. So I'm not challenging that. Instead, I'd like to use this video to challenge the way psychedelic gay conversion therapy is addressed among affiliates of Chacruna Institute, notably Clancy Kavnar, who's one of the co-founders of Chacruna, in her article, Can Psychedelics Cure Gay People? But first, if you're into this kind of content, please give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the Psychedelic Historian YouTube channel, and hit that bell icon so that you're notified every time I post a new video. Also, it'd be great to link up on Instagram. Find me at Psychedelic Historian. With that out of the way, let's clear up some history. And just so that there's no mistaking, I absolutely do not have it out for Clancy Kavnar. There are areas of psychedelic culture and history that she and I agree about 100%. I'm sure we could roll a joint or get some tea and have great conversations about it all. The little bit I know about her, I mean, she seems really down to earth, kind, compassionate, and a relentless supporter of all things psychedelic, and yes, all that stuff makes her top-notch in my book. I suppose my issue with Kavnar's portrayal of psychedelic gay conversion therapy is that she sees it through the unnuanced lens of critical social justice, meaning she places the topic within the eternal struggle between the oppressors and the oppressed. Which is, I'm sorry to say, a profoundly immature way of seeing the world. In this case, the homosexuals would be the oppressed, and that does make sense. I mean, they were living in very bigoted times, but that doesn't make the doctors the oppressors. And one of the more fashionable things to do these days is cite historical oppression to feed modern privileges. Here's what I mean by that. And some of you will have probably noticed this yourselves because it's very obvious in psychedelic spaces. But a researcher will tend to point to someone who was oppressed in the past, right? And then they'll say, look, I have the same immutable characteristics as this person who was oppressed in the past. Even though I'm not being oppressed today, we share the same immutable characteristics, so I'm gonna need preferential treatment, more toys, and an extra slice of birthday cake. Such as we see with the way Chacruna Institute presents psychedelic gay conversion therapy. Notably, Clancy Kavnar, who wrote in her article, all medicines can be poisoned in the wrong hands. The subplot, as I understand it, is that Kavnar is saying that these doctors who did this were absolutely on the wrong side of history. They are the ones who turned medicine into poison. And, truth be told, in 2 cases, the Chacruna cats are correct. In France, 2 gay teenagers were forced into a conversion therapy program using both shock therapy and LSD. Despicable and inhumane, Kavnar and I agree 100% about that. But I also believe that what separates me from just about every affiliate at Chacruna Institute is that I'm not going to use my sexual orientation and point to those poor kids in France and say, oh, they were abused with LSD and electroshock therapy, and I'm gay today, so give me free shit. Because exploiting past oppression for present gain is equally despicable. And just to be fair to all parties, Mixing LSD and shock therapy was also used on heterosexual people as well. I just wanted to say that, not that that excuses any of it. But besides those two cases from France, there is literally nothing in the historical record that would indicate that psychedelic gay conversion therapy was either intense or widespread. As I stated at the onset of this video, I really appreciate that Chacruna Institute makes these issues more widely available for everyone to read about. But as per usual with Chacruna Institute, too much of the story has been left out of the equation, rendering their version of it to be, let's just say, not as helpful as it could have been otherwise. So let's fill in the historical blanks. The first thing to say about psychedelic gay conversion therapy, and I have to say it because no one at Chacruna Institute is going to say it, but the first thing to say about it is that no doctors, at least in Canada and the United States and pretty much everywhere else in the West, except in France for 2 cases, but everywhere else, no doctor actually forced a patient to take LSD to try to convert them to a heterosexual lifestyle. I mean, it never happened. However, reading Psychedelic Justice, one would never get the slightest indication of that. Doctors, then and today, are not allowed to solicit patients. So the first thing Kavanaugh might have been a little clearer about was that no doctor actually sought out a homosexual person to try to convert them. Because that simply never happened, notwithstanding those 2 cases from France, but as we all know,
the French are assholes.
In fact, every single person who sought out gay conversion therapy through psychedelics, and let me be clear, we are not talking about a lot of people, we're talking about a tiny minority of people. Anyway, every single one of them sought out the doctor. The doctor did not seek out any of them. Kavanaugh writes in such a way that you would never know that it was actually the patient asking the doctor for the LSD, not the doctor telling the patient, I'm going to give you LSD and turn you straight. All the doctors did was oblige their patient's requests. We have a letter that might serve as a typical example of what this kind of request might look like. It was sent to Richard Alpert, now Ram Dass. I am primarily an overt acting out homosexual and I don't want to be anymore. I've heard about LSD and I think it could help me. Would you work with me? Alpert, or rather Ram Dass, a gay man himself, was quick to tell the patient that LSD was no guarantee that it would turn him heterosexual. Indeed, Alpert had taken LSD many times up to that point, and yet he still preferred hanging out in public bathroom stalls at midnight. In fact, there is an issue with every single example that Kavanaugh cites in her article. Like when she brings up the gay conversion therapy efforts of Jean Houston and Robert Masters, author of the popular book, The Varieties of Psychedelic Experience. In this instance, Houston and Masters are the wrong hands that turned that medicine into poison. Or did they? A careful reading of Houston and Masters does not reveal 2 bigoted doctors trying to eradicate homosexuality. I mean, not even close. Instead, they gave the LSD to their gay patients to examine various aspects of homosexual psychology and problems of social adjustment. In other words, all they were doing was trying to alleviate the distress that their patients felt through leading secret lives in homosexually repressive times. If attempting to convert to a heterosexual lifestyle was part of any individual client's wishes, well, how much are Doctors Houston and Masters to blame for that? To turn away a person suffering from a sexual orientation during highly repressive times, I mean, that would have just made Houston and Masters the villains, no? They were less trying to convert their patients than they were trying to stop them from committing suicide. Acting no more homophobic by abiding by their clients' wishes to turn heterosexual than they were depression-phobic for trying to cure their patients' depression. Kavanaugh also addresses that psychedelic luminary Stanislav Grof treated homosexuals with psychedelics as well. And I know I've already said this, but I cannot stress it enough. Every single person who went to see Dr. Grof did so on their own volition. As Grof writes, his experience was limited to a great extent to individuals who came into treatment because they considered their homosexuality a problem and had serious conflicts with it. Other gay and lesbian participants didn't see Grof to cure their homosexuality, but rather they were interested in professional training and personal growth. For many of them, their major problem was a conflict with intolerant society rather than intrapsychic conflict and struggle. None of this sounds like some bigoted doctor trying to abolish homosexuality from civil life to me. At no point did Groff give anyone LSD because he wanted them to be straight. I mean, it simply never happened. Kavnar also cites works from other doctors of the time, which I detail in my forthcoming book, Psychedelic Injustice: How Identity Politics Poisons the Psychedelic Renaissance. So if you're interested in a deeper dive into this topic, my publisher is shooting for a June 2025 release. For now, it would seem that the full story of psychedelic gay conversion therapy is a little bit more nuanced and involved than simply saying evil Western doctor is a bigot and is trying to get rid of gay people. And so I'd like to end this video with a point of agreement between Kavnar and myself. She ends her article writing, "It is important and timely to raise awareness of how agendas may color the conceptions and uses of psychedelic medicines." I couldn't agree more. So please, Miss Kavnar, bring that message to the rest of the folks at Chacruna Institute. Well, my friends, that's all I have for you this time, and I'd love to thank you for stopping by. Once again, I ask that you give this video a like and a share, subscribe to the channel if you found value in the content, and let's link up on Instagram. And until we meet again, I'm Tom Hatsis, your psychedelic historian, reminding you that you free your mind by using your brain. Peace.